Hello. Okay, so today we are doing another what sold type of video. This time, however, I've decided I'm not doing them once a month. I'm going to break them down more sporadically throughout the month because they're just too long and I can't include as many items as I want doing it that way because it would be extra long. I have to cut things. So what I'm going to do is generally show you those 90-day items, as well as maybe some that are outliers that were just great sales but took longer. Now, if you're not sure what I mean by 90-day items, we are doing a sell-through rate video. So that means I'm going to show you items that have sold within the first 90 days of being listed. Some of them go for a decent amount of money. Some of them go for not so great. I'll give a mix of both of those, but yeah, that is what I will be sharing. So let's go over some of my sales. And while I'm getting it set up, I will say that my name is Misty, and I am a stay-at-home mom who resells part-time but is looking, I'm trying to get into full-time. I have other incomes too that are freelance digital work. And yeah, that's kind of my background. I've been doing this for several years, but I'm starting to take it more and more seriously. The first item I'm going to share with you was, it's an interesting one. And that is because it was a Tommy Hilfiger dress and it was a size small. Generally, this isn't a brand I pick up, though I've heard it's making a comeback, apparently. I don't know, but I was like, this is 99 cents. We'll test the theory. I picked it up and it sold in 3 days. Okay, so I thought it was a really good pattern to start with. It was a really good pattern. And it sold for $15. So not a lot of money. Okay, not a lot of money, but in 3 days, I turned around and made $1 into 15. That is awesome. Keep in mind, I'm not going to share shipping because that really just changes per person. So the math isn't gonna math, okay? Because I'm gonna give you a few numbers and I'll give you like the fees and the shipping I paid, yada, yada, yada. But I will give you my final profit before taxes. So like I said, the customer paid $15. I paid $1 for it. The transaction fees were $3.11. And by transaction fees, I mean seller fees. It's just, this isn't the only thing I do. So like in my head, these are always transactional fees. The gross profit was $12.52. So there's that one. Next was a crossbody bag, and it was by the brand Lug. It was the Lug Camper SE adjustable crossbody bag, and it was RFID blocking, which basically is like a way to protect yourself against identity theft. It's a way to block that. So a great travel bag. I sold this in 30 days for $30. And I had paid $5.29 for it. The fees were $5.75, which left me with a profit, sorry if you hear my kids behind me, which left me with a profit of $22.92. Okay, so next, I think it would have done a lot better if it wasn't for the flaws. This is one of those items where I didn't see the flaws till I get home. If you don't know, I have small children. I homeschool. They're with me 24/7. When I go shopping, it's a good chance that they're with me. And in that case, I miss a lot of things. I'll miss a lot of flaws because, you know, trying to keep 2 kids happy while trying to do everything else is a bit much, but sometimes it's the only option I have. So with that said, this had some like discoloration around the armpits. I think there were other minor flaws beyond that, but that was the only major thing that I was like, oh great, this isn't gonna do well. So I did lower the price quite a bit. If it wasn't for that, I think I could have got I probably could have got up to, I don't know, $25, but instead I made 15 with the flaws. On flawed items, I'm okay with taking $15, especially for armpit discoloration. And it sold in 43 days on eBay. I paid $4.99 for it, and my fees were $3.39. My profit was only $9.30, but once again, I will take that on a flawed item. Next is a Matilda Jane cardigan sweaterish thing. It was a very loose log and look type thing. We know log and look is huge right now, boho-y, those kind of things. It had really cute button accents. It had a fringe on the bottom. It had a lot of really nice things going for it. I knew it would do well. I'm not very familiar with how well Matilda Jane does for women's clothing. It's not one I really pick up, but I knew this was a good piece. I sold it in 18 days for $21, and I had paid $3.99 for it. My fees were $4.21. That's my seller fees, and then my promotional fees, $1.58, and I made a profit of $13.89 on this item. Next we have Eileen Fisher. Everybody knows good old Eileen Fisher is dependable. This was an Eileen Fisher dress. It was a midi dress, size medium, and this piece was so beautiful. So beautiful. Very much the 90s style, which you'll see in my keywords there. If you think of like the 90s minimalist look, this was it, but with like a nice soft color. I don't remember this kind of color being big in the 90s. I could be wrong, but it's kind of going along with also like the dopamine aesthetic. So I thought it had a lot of really good things going for it. But it sold on eBay in 8 days for $49.50. I paid $6.99 for it in a thrift store. My seller fees were $7.82, which left me with a profit of $36.29. So yeah, one Eileen Fisher, you know, Eileen does not need help to sell for the most part. And then like the fact that it was a longer dress and it had these vibes of like very popular aesthetics going for it really worked for it. Okay, next we have Spanx, and I didn't think this would, it barely made the cutoff, but I didn't think it would sell in 90 days because it was a size small, which is harder to sell in Spanx. But it was the perfect, oh, that's why. This was not like the Spanx shape where it was the jogger. Yes, okay, now I remember. It was a size small, all black, jogger. Not much else to describe it as. It sold in 75 days for $35.91. I originally paid $4.99 for it. Fees were $6.62, so I made a profit of $28.98 on that item. All right, so this J. Crew was a merino wool blend Sophie cardigan. I felt it in the thrift store and I knew that it was quality. It was so nice. It was such a nice sweater. Really nice thick material, nicely knit. It was really a solid piece. Somebody else felt the same way because it sold on eBay in 49 days for $40. I originally invested $4.99 into this item, and my fees were, well, we have two different fees here. We have seller fees of $7.22 and promotional fees of $2.80. So after everything, I made $30.27. All right, so the next one, I can't remember why I let go of it for so low, to be honest. Maybe because it was pretty plain. Was there a flaw? I don't remember. But I think that's what it was. I think when I checked comps, more like today comps than 25 days before it was listed, because it sold in 25 days. I think that this was like on the low end of like a general comp range that was acceptable for this item. So it wasn't like the best pickup, but you know, some of these brands are just hard to leave behind, like Soft Surroundings. And it was a very plain yellow gauzy type of pullover shirt. It has this beautiful, nice, soft yellow color. I think at this point I was still, yeah, this was just coming out of February, so I was still in panic mode. If you watch my last video, you know that I was kind of in panic mode with getting things sold because my store just went silent for 2 weeks. But it sold in 25 days for $17, and I had paid $3 for it. My fees were, I have seller fees of $3.50. I have promotional fees of $1.30. So my profit was $10.58. This next one here had a flaw that I didn't notice till I got home, once again, under my lighting and more thorough inspecting. But it was a Knox Rose midi dress. It had a handkerchief hemline at the bottom, and it was very boho-y with embroidery, as you can see in the photos. And this sold in 7 days for $15, which I'll take because what was wrong with it was the loop for the button was actually frayed and loose. So I'm not even sure that it's going to actually stay closed without somebody getting a seamstress to fix it. And I did notate that on this item, so they're aware of that. And they paid $15, like I said, in 7 days. I paid only $1 for it, so at least it was like not a huge investment. So 15 doesn't sound so bad after $1. And let's see here, we have seller fees of $3.16. I have promotional fees of $1.16, and this brought my profit to $11.33. Next is a Ted Baker item, and it was a pencil skirt, a very romantic, feminine skirt. As you can see, there's like butterflies, birds, things like that in it, and it was just so gorgeous. It had to be the style that sold it because it was a size 1, which is quite small. Okay, so looking on the website, a size 1 is a US size 4, so that's pretty small. But hey, sometimes the pattern on it speaks for itself. It sold in 34 days on eBay for $44. I did not pay anything for this skirt, so $3.99 turned into $44 is lovely. And my fees were, seller fees were $6.56. My promotional fees were $2.54. This brought me to a profit of $36.53 for it. Okay, next. You guys are not gonna like the price of this, and that's okay. You're not gonna like it. But it was a pair of Hokas, and here's what happened before we get to the price. I bought a bunch of shoes over a year ago when I just went crazy and I was like, I'm gonna get into the shoe game. And I did some research, but not a lot, like not a lot. So I bought a lot of items and I had this massive death pile of shoes, which I'm trying to discipline myself to go through now. And because I realized I actually hate shoes, because of that, I'm actually just trying to get rid of them. So a lot of shoes this month have just gone for so little because I'm like, just get them out of here. I want to be very selective in the future on shoes. So with that being said, these were a Hoka 11 Bondi 7. Okay, Bondi 7, not that old. And they were they the ones that were beat up? Let me see. Yeah, so these ones, I wouldn't say they were beat up. They were not beat up, but they were a little dirty, but it wasn't massive dirty. It could definitely be cleaned. I had the intention when I bought it to clean it, but then when I realized I hate shoes, I was like, we're gonna list these as is and we're gonna get these bad boys sold. So with that being said, they sold in 7 days on eBay after listing. After sitting in my basement for a year, I finally listed them, and they sold for $25 on a best offer. And I was like, done, take it off my hands. I had paid $5.29 for them and my fees were $5.30. So I made 20 bucks on shoes I just wanted to get out. Okay, so next we have a Rule 925 item. It was a women's pullover wool and cashmere blend shirt slash, it really was not a sweater. It was so thinly knit, so finely knit that I really didn't know what to call it. So I literally didn't put either of those words in the title. So I just put pullover, I guess. Rule 925 is a brand that announced ceasing operations in June of 2009, if I remember correctly. And so it is a brand where I don't think it's a massive bolo. I really don't. Some people do, but for me, it's not. Maybe it's the way I'm selling it. Maybe it's the items I'm picking. I don't know. But it's okay, in my opinion. But it does sell because there are people looking for it. So maybe the men's stuff more than the women's. But this sold in 65 days for $22 on eBay, and I originally paid $2.50 for it. The seller fees were $3.99. Promotional fees were $1.49. So I made a profit of $15.49 on the shirt. Okay, the next one that I'm going to share before we go ahead and move on to some of the outliers is a Sundance item. This was an interesting dress. I really didn't know how to describe the dress. The back of it was almost like a drop neck to a drop, not waist. It had this like pouch in the back that just kind of sat down. I'm not sure. Let me try to make sure I keep this where you can see me. I'm not sure what to call it. I did my best to photograph it. They never returned it, so I guess I did okay. Because it was a very different back situation. It just had this extra baggy part that dragged, and that's why it kind of had a login look to it, not just because of that drop piece, but this had a lot going for it. It was Sundance, it was a size large, it was a cashmere, it was login look, and it sold on eBay in 24 days for $40. Oh, and it had, this was really interesting, it had a lipstick smudge on it, like a stain, and it still sold for that much. I mean, I think you can get lipstick out of stuff. I'm not good at getting, I don't do the stains. I know people just get them out, but I just notate them, at least at this point. So yeah, $40 in 24 days. I had paid $3.99 for it. The seller fees were $6.71, so I made a profit of $31.97. Okay, so let's talk about some outliers. Sorry, I actually forgot to share with you our Poshmarks. So let's head to Poshmark and then we'll worry about the outliers. There weren't a ton of Poshmarks in this chunk of time that I'm sharing with you. We do have an Abercrombie & Fitch item. Oh, actually this was returned. I'll still tell you about it. It was an Abercrombie & Fitch puffer vest, and it was ducked down inside of it. It did sell in 46 days for $23, which was on the lower end of offers I could take, but I took it because I just wanted stuff to move. And I promise you that when I had it, it had a working zipper, because if you look at my photos, I hang everything. That requires me to unzip and zip back up. And when I'm in the store, I often unzip and zip back up. When I'm taking off the stores, beyond looking at quality, I'm unzipping it from their hanger and zipping it back up. So I know I've checked it at least 3 times for the zipper, but this person claimed that the teeth were wonky, and even when I received it, I had no way to prove it. So I was like, all right, because I know Poshmark, like you can fight stuff, but I was like, I have no way to prove it. So I'm just gonna take it back. So I did, and yeah, it was all wonky when I got it, and he provided photos. I hate saying that someone might have done that to the item and then try to claim it, but I promise you none of those issues were there. I would have known. All that to say, it was returned and he got his money back, but it did sell for 23 bucks, but it was returned, so I didn't make any money on it. I would have made $9.41 on it. Actually, in this chunk of time, this is up to like the 7th, 8th of the month. That's really all my 90-day turnarounds on Poshmark, it looks like. I do have other sales that were not in the 90-day time frame, but now we're just going to talk about a few outliers. And we're going to talk about, okay, so next, it didn't go for a lot, but based on my cost of goods to how much I sold it for, it was a decent turnaround. This took 100 days. It was a soft surroundings cropped ankle pant, nothing special, all white cropped ankle pant, run of the mill, seriously nothing standing out about it. I thought I would have it forever. It did sell on Poshmark for $25 after 100 days. I had paid $1.99 for it, and their fees they took out were $5, so I made $18.01 on it. And again, we have a pair of Hokas. This was not in my death pile. This was one I had listed, and the comps looked really great, especially if you were willing to go through eBay's verification program for the shoes. So I had it listed high. Okay, we're talking like $225 because they were selling for that, according to what I've seen. As long as you're getting them verified. They're in great shape, pretty much new, minimal wear, all those kind of things. A few little tiny marks. And yeah, even on the low end, we're talking about like maybe 190, 180, like stuff like that. That's what it was looking like when I found these shoes. I did list them. They did not move for me at all. So I finally was like, we're going to run a deep sale. You know, back in February, I did that to get my stores going, and it did sell not for an amount I wanted, but I was like, listen, I paid $5 for these, $5.29. She's offering me more than enough. So I sold them. So these gorgeous Hoka Free People Movement Clifton 8s in the color of, what is that, gold coastal floral. They're so pretty. If they were my size, I would have actually just kept them. But I sold them after 243 days on Poshmark for $75. I originally paid $5.29. Their fees were $15. I made $54.71 on it. Not a bad situation, but comps were reading better when I looked it up. So I don't know what happened, but here we are. All right, next is another Hoka Bondi 8. Okay, once again, these Hokas were not in the death pile, but I had them, I think, listed for too much. I don't know what's going on with eBay's system, but I swore they were doing so well when I was in the store checking the prices. And then I got home and I listed it really high, like the comps said. And then the next thing you know, those comps were not there. Like by the time I went home and looked on my computer and set up my phone, they weren't there. I couldn't find them anymore. I didn't screenshot them either. So I was like, don't know where those went. So with that being said, I did drop these significantly too. So it did sell on eBay after 102 days for $66.36. They were like all black. They were really nice. Cost of goods was $7.50 on these. I had paid in fees $8.50. So I made $50.36 off of these shoes. This is my first pair of shoes going through eBay's verification system, and I'm very unsure of how I feel about it because I've heard people say that they have shoes they know for a fact they sold for like they have them from their own closet. They know they properly purchased them and everything, and that eBay marked them as unverifiable, like that they were fakes. I don't even see how I can check on where it's at on the process. It does say it's delivered, but I don't know if it was delivered to the warehouse where they checked them or if it was delivered to the customer. I'm not sure, because also it was listed for more than the $75 threshold, and then it went down to the $66. They did have me ship it to a certain address using, was it USPS or FedEx? Whatever it was, the shipping program. So I was like, I think it went to that warehouse, but here we are, and I still have no idea. So let's hope it goes well. Okay, that's all I want to talk about in this video. I'm trying to keep these shorter, so hopefully this worked so that they're not 40-minute videos. If you're interested in seeing what else has sold for me in the past, go ahead and click the video to see what else has sold for me. But I'll try to film a video when I can. I never guarantee when. Bye.